Hello. I know some of you haven't seen me before, so now's your chance. Here I am. I thought just for a change that I was going to do something a little bit different. And as you can see, it's very much thrown together, although I had the idea the other day.
Dark and Newbies morning.
Good morning. And I just thought, you know what? The stuff that I'm actually seeing and the things that are actually being said, um, it started to annoy me, to be fair. And usually I'm quite placid, generally, most of the time. But I thought, why not? Let's have a little look. Let's have a look at the chatting side. And whilst it might be a bit of a contentious issue, it was spawned, and this is only going to be short, by the way, maybe an hour, if that. It was spawned from the fact that I sit back and I watch what's going on in the States, and I sit there shaking my head with disbelief at the attitude of some of the people and the inability to understand anything about wearing a mask or not in the current climate. By the way, just jump in, anything on chat, that's absolutely fine. I've limited the chat to subscribers only for obvious reasons, and should we get more than 4 people on, and I know this is a little bit of an odd one for me, I think chat at the moment, I think I've got the delay off.
Welcome
But
Sublime.
as I was going to say, people will get invited in just the same, I think. In fact, I better switch welcomes off, to be honest, guys. Otherwise, this bot will crash. It's only going to be available for the current subscribers. So let me just announcement greetings. I'll just switch that off for now. Because I know it'll crash and I don't want to be faffing around with that. So yeah, as I said, I was watching with great interest some of the things going on over in the States, thinking that the people basically don't sort of get the grasp of what a mask is all about. And then there was me being typically English and thinking, they wouldn't be like that here. And then lo and behold, you see these ridiculous, and I'm saying from my point of view, ridiculous things going on in London, in Trafalgar Square, and so on, about the fact that all these people are protesting. And now it's turning slowly into how it's one worldwide hoax, not sure where that word's come from, and how it's a conspiracy and all those things. And then the other day, my other half gave me or showed me an email that one of the people she used to work with sent. Hello, Frozen, you alright? One of the people that she used to work with had sent this thing around on Facebook, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. And basically, that's why I decided to do something a little bit different for me. So it's just chatting, it's just taking views, and let's have a conversation about face masks. So some of you, I know, I can guess your views already, and others. So Frozen Frost, you've just jumped in. So what do you think about face masks? Are they a good thing, a bad thing? Should we be wearing them? What do you think about COVID? Same thing goes to everybody else. If you want to put in your views, what you think about having to go shopping with a face mask on, social distancing, how COVID has affected your normal way of life, what the risks are, please jump in. I am absolutely fine, thank you, Frozen. As you can see, the bot isn't going to work for everybody at the moment, because topical wise it could get a little bit interesting, it just depends. So I'm really good, Frozen, thank you. How are you and your family? I hope you're all well. But yeah, we're all good, thank you very much. One of the little ones tested positive a couple of weeks ago now, and she's fine. She was 7, by the way. apparently kids have got this immune system that means they don't get it and they don't suffer or they don't do anything. But then the thought is that everybody that she'd come into contact with was having to be isolated. So that was my mother, my sister and their family, the girl's mother and father, and then some of their relatives as well. And it was quite interesting because on one of the posts floating around on Facebook that Lisa showed me from her friend, it was a cut and paste this if you agree style thing where obviously somebody's made a load of statements based on something or other. And one of the things in there is, I do not consent to the tracking and tracing of citizens. And that's like, I don't, that's a very sort of, is totalitarian the thing? Is that the right word? You'll have to go with the flag, correct me if I'm wrong. So that seems as like it's more on a big brothery sort of thing, when the reality is the tracing and tracking of citizens is there purely and simply so that they can squash any further infection. And tracking and tracing used to be a thing years ago when they were trying to eradicate smallpox. It was quite important, I mean, bearing in mind the lack of technology they had. And when people say, I do not consent to the tracking and tracing of citizens, I would like to bet those people walk around with a mobile phone. And if you've got a mobile phone in your pocket, you are tracked and traced. It's as simple as that. I don't understand why people have a big issue with it.
Facebook?
It was one of the ones going round. It was one of Lisa's friends, one of the management people, who normally is considered quite reasonable, came out with this thing, and it's very much, you can tell by the words and the way that it's put, copy and paste style thing, and it's like, copy this and forward it on, and if you agree, and you just think, they obviously, I mean, I do not consent to living in a police state. I mean, what? It's just, I saw it, and I just could not believe some of the stuff in it, and this is what spawned this whole thing. As I said, Arthur, you might not have been there, but at first what I was, I sit back, and to be honest, hello Liz, to be honest, I sit back and I follow American politics, and every morning and every night I catch up on the stories. Now, I am not naive enough to believe that there might be some sort of press bias or this, that and the other. But I take a good view.
As they need a coat because they can't sort themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's that element. I mean, there's a far cry. Sorry, so I have had to switch on subscribers only for the chat, because obviously, with the amount of chat that potentially could be going on, we're going to see my bot crash. So rather than have it a free-for-all and all the conversation get all mangled up, right, I can see what's going on in chat, and also
how's you?
And also the other guys that are coming back, so it's switched to subs. But anyway, I mean, there's a world of difference between a police state, and yet this is all jumbled up. It's like one massive, ridiculous government hoax. I mean, I saw the signs that people were holding in Trafalgar Square saying it was a world hoax. And I'm thinking, Jesus, I know we have our fringe people who always see conspiracies everywhere. But it's one of these things, right, from my opinion. I mean, please jump in and have an opinion. If the only person it affected was yourself, that's fine by me. You have your choice. If you want to drink yourself silly, and I do apologise if anybody has suffered from alcoholism or anything, sometimes, as long as it's only you that it affects, but it never does, if you want to sort of spend all your time taking drugs, that's entirely up to you. You have the free choice to do it. It's unfortunate in every single case. It's the impact on everybody else. And if that impact wasn't there, guess what? Nobody would give a damn. And the same with masks to some extent. People think that it's a repression, and basically it's suppressing and repressing somebody by making them wear a mask. Whereas the reality, from my point of view, I mean, again, please contribute, please jump in. There's 15 people there and I'm like talking to myself, or it feels like it. So the wearing of a mask is nothing to do with keeping yourself safe. It's to prevent anything that you've got spreading to others. Now, that's where I struggle. And I struggle because the way people talk, it's about their personal rights, what's happening to them, and it's all me, me, me. And no thought or consideration for anybody else. Now, if those people don't want to wear masks, okay, but stay at home, do online shopping, and that's it. And just stay isolated. Do you know what? If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just do it that way around. Now, in the UK, they've just started to add fines to people, which I think is quite good. In as much as the fact that if somebody is infected or supposed to be self-isolating for 2 weeks and they break that, they will get £1,000 fine.
This is why I like part of the Japanese culture. If I am sick, I wear a mask.
Yeah.
I suffer so.
Yeah, exactly. See, now Lisa just jumped in and cut that statement off. So I'll repeat that. And as he says, if I am sick, I wear a mask. I suffer so others won't have to. I mean, which is valid. Yeah, it's, you know, Lisa's put, see Lisa, if you was a sub, which don't be, because then that costs me money. I know what's expected of me and I will wear a mask to protect others. I just can't get my head around those who don't. I know, but it's the way it seems, right? It's the way it's done. Exactly. Now, I've added that in. You have a terminal little girl and not letting any selfish twat make her life shorter. Exactly. I mean, as some of you know, I mean, you can tell when I'm streaming normally. I'm an asthmatic. I've been an asthmatic since I was 8 years old, and now I'm 60. So I've had to live with it all the time, and there's certain things I am aware of that I know I have to avoid because it causes me problems, right? Usually having too long a relationship is one. Yeah, I mean, we mask up when we go there. I mean, I cough, you know what I cough like. If I cough and I'm standing in the queue for somewhere, geez, man, you know, if looks can kill, you know, but it's just this attitude. I'll give you, let's read another little bit, right? Here's a bit from this statement going around. I am concerned that people are labelled conspiracy theorists simply because they question certain government, corporate and industrial motives, or because they question the arbitrary laws that revoke our basic human rights. This is not mask stuff. This is something that somebody's spreading around. People are reading it and identifying with it, but that statement there is nothing to do with the masks. That's some far left conspiracy idiot who.
From Corona to 5 grams drives me mad.
Oh, that one, yeah. I'll tell you what, down at Trafalgar Square, right, you got somebody called David Icke. Now, a lot of people will be completely unaware of this.
Nonsense.
Exactly, unaware of David Icke. David Icke used to be a very local, in the Midlands, that's in the UK, sports presenter for a TV channel, okay? And then he went weird. Now, When I say he went weird, right, I mean he went weird. He would sit there as straight-faced as George Washington, for an example, that's obviously an illustration, and claim that the heads of governments were actually aliens and were lizard people described, pretending to be these people. Honestly, straight up, no word of a lie. Look him up, right? Now, when this thing started to kick off, I mean, he has
And he
so
was the
many
new Messiah.
conspiracy. Oh yeah, that, and his turquoise, that was it. He used to always wear turquoise. He was the newcomer, and he was here to warn us, which is very similar to quite a few people who do suffer some sort of mental illnesses. I mean, you can listen to him and you can hear him talk, and he sounds very lucid, i.e., he can communicate well, he doesn't seem anything strange, and yet what comes out of his mouth. And I actually watched a YouTube video of his and how 5G was the cause of COVID, and it was a Chinese plot. Right? It was COVID. Now, whenever there's anything new, right, it always used to be something to do with, the big thing that we don't understand is
He was
causing
not the
us.
Messiah. He was a very naughty boy.
Excellent, detritus. That's absolutely brilliant. He was. I'll do it. He was not the Messiah. He was a very naughty boy. Okay, so anyway, no, that was brilliant, and the timing was good. So that's what he's been saying.
That took longer than I expected.
So it did. So he was. He basically sat there, and I watched this video, and he was going on and on and on about all this, and all of his videos, all of his channels have been removed. Now, there's another statement. I do not consent to the extreme censorship that is taking place on social media platforms towards doctors, scientists, and activists who present and uphold valid data that challenges the official narrative the media would have us believe. This concerns me far more than the virus. Now, I'm not being funny, but I know the person that forwarded this, and as I said, it's all this conspiracy nonsense all rolled in, right, into some sort of basic fear. Of course, people are a little bit annoyed about not being able to do some of the things they want to do. Of course, that's understandable. When you've got children, and for most of the time you're stuck in the house, I could imagine that's quite, difficult. I mean, I've got somebody who lives with me that I have to look after, and it can be a bit of a nightmare, but you do what you can, and I understand that. But the point is, you don't get to the point where everything you've bothered to do, right, you put at risk and put them in harm's way. I don't understand why people with children would have this viewpoint, where I would be more concerned about thinking about the health and wealth of the children. Yeah, you've got one as well, BVT lady. Now I understand that. Okay, so there's another good statement on this, okay, that says something like, I do not consent to government making decisions without a democratic process. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the democratic process is called an election. You vote people in, and you give them, right, basically the ability to make decisions without having to come back to you constantly asking if that's okay with you, Gov. You, Gov, that's a bloody whole government division in itself, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, well, no, they were voted in democratically, and they are there to represent you, and that's it. I don't understand why they think that government making decisions without a democratic process. The process is the election. It's as simple as that. It's just, has anyone else got this, by the way? There's a cracking one here. There's a cracking one, right? And the statement is as follows: I do not consent to be labelled an anti-vaxxer simply because I have concerns about mandatory, wherever this comes from, enforced vaccines or rushed procedures without proper protocols, especially high-risk ones with limited testing that are deemed highly profitable to the most questionable of interests. An anti-vaxxer.
I would like to state my opinion, but yours is spot on.
Yeah.
So have nothing to type.
Oh, thank you, Arthur. No, that's fair enough. It's just where anti-vaxxers come in, right? Generally from, again, I think it's originated in the States, where they have all this yet again false information posted based on complete bollocks and bullshit. That, right? Kids don't need injections when they're young. Measles, mumps, and rubella are the injections. So somebody falsely claimed with false pseudoscience, some expert, made up this shit that rippled through basically a lot of different countries, and then people started becoming anti-vaxxers. I can't remember the backstory for that. I'm not sure whether it was because they were making children ill or because
There's
they were
mercury
doing
in
stuff.
the vaccines, so therefore it's poison.
Right, okay.
Sad.
Okay. So that's where that term anti-vaxxer, I think, originated from. So they had this big movement of people who are not going to vaccinate their kids. Okay. And then you end up with this great big sort of rise in all the diseases that those vaccines prevented, should I say, and everybody moaned about it. Now, they sort of have tied this in with the anti-vaxxer movement. The assumption is that mandatory, right? I don't recall any sort of mandatory statements from any government that everybody is going to have this vaccine, ever, anywhere. We have the flu vaccine, that's not mandatory. Flu kills people, right? And also flu is quite spreadable. I'll come back to flu. I'm going to make a note because I want to come back to flu, because that's quite a good one to pick up on, isn't it? Turns over his page, licks his finger, which he shouldn't do, sits here, looks for his cup of tea that he hasn't got, and types flu. Also, I'll mention cowpox as well. I don't know whether any of you know what cowpox is or was. Anyway, so, okay. Where was I going? So basically, so people are already saying, I'm not going to be mandatory, right, vaccinated with something that has been rushed, right? And they put without proper protocols, especially high risk ones. I mean, quite seriously, nobody's ever going to force anybody to have a vaccination.
Famine has killed more people in the world this year than COVID has. The vaccine for that is food. Why is this still the case?
Exactly. I mean, that's quite a fair point. Because I say to most people...
I noted from Bojo's speech last night, he said 1 million people have died from COVID around the world. That's not actually that big a percentage of the world population.
I mean, it is a true observation. And sometimes when you take things in context, right, it sort of does pale in insignificance. The difference is, because it's people, there is a moral obligation, or there should be some sort of moral obligation for, fellow man. And that's where these figures come in. I mean, when you look at percentages, all right, Cock, when you look at percentages, then percentage-wise, it is relatively small. I mean, when you look down at, there were protests in London, I can't remember when, probably about Brexit, I guess. And you see all those people standing in the streets, they say, yeah, look how many people are here.
But still, if it's preventable, why not try to prevent it?
Exactly.
People die a lot in car accidents, and we still try to build safer cars.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We always try and prevent things. As I mean, quite right. I mean, Detritus actually said what he said about famine, and that is quite right. You know, even now, and I'll tell you one of the problems with famine. Now, I'm saying this very general, right? Is whenever they start advertising about famine and contributing and making an effort, people switch off to it. And unfortunately, that is the case. You know, people go, oh, not another advert.
Yes, but we don't ban people from driving older, less safe vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, safety, unfortunately, with cars, the safety thing keeps moving. And I think there might even be a level that if you actually adhered completely to every single safety feature, suddenly people who have spent 10 to 20 grand on a car, and that's cheap nowadays, suddenly can't drive it anymore. Yay! It's not politics, Mr. Lol. Mr. Grandad, you're right, matey. So we was actually just talking about masks. That is the main thing, Grandad. I mean, you of all people. And it came about, quick recap for those that have just joined. It was a little bit about the fact that you watch over in, say, somewhere like the States, and you see all these people who are anti-maskers, this, that and the other. And then suddenly you look over in the UK and you've got all those protests in Trafalgar Square and so on. And then emails going around like Lisa's given me from somebody that she used to work with that makes a load of ridiculous statements. And that's the sort of back end of this conversation, Grandad. Not so much politics, cars and things and famine are just little offshoots of what's going on. And the fact that apparently Boris said yesterday that I think Platty wrote about as a percentage-wise of the world's population. I mean, to be honest, one of the things I used to do, I don't mean to be disrespectful to people's religions, but we used to get a particular religious group come round to the front door years ago, and they'd explain to you how bad it was, how the world was full of sin, blah, blah, blah. And then they'd start talking about, you know, the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And I actually said, but surely, I mean, if there's a nuclear explosion and a lot of people get wiped out, how do you know that isn't the way of keeping the population in check from, you know, your God's point of view? Because surely that would be an easy way of cleansing the world of a few people. And those that then made an effort afterward, you know what I mean? And I used to go down all sorts of weird and wonderful tacks with them. Where did I come into that there? Oh yeah, the fact that, oh shit, I've lost my thread now.
That God created the universe in a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, where did I lose my thread? Somebody put me back. I was talking about the States and how I think all those things in terms of the views spread out to the UK. Or the UK, you've got this lot mixed in with the anti-maskers, and I really have lost my thread on that. I can't think why I suddenly jumped onto that one, but I do apologise. I digress. But I've got on my piece of paper flu and cowpox, right? And flu is also a killer, right? And oftentimes, as you'll hear in the media, especially abroad, they'll say it's no different to flu. It's no different to flu, but it is quite different to flu. Flu is a killer, and the question is really now, understanding how a mask can and does seem to help to some extent. Would you wear a mask, right, when the flu season's about to kick off, and I should have had my flu jab, or will be having my flu jab soon personally. We have a choice with flu jabs. Flu makes me incredibly ill, and as my breathing is already compromised a little bit anyway, it sort of really doesn't help, and it does make me quite ill. So I have a flu jab. And now knowing and people getting used to masks, would you wear a mask in the heights of the flu season, which is usually around about end of October through to about, I don't know, Jan, Feb? Has anyone sort of looked at that at all? there's another thing. Oh yeah, I know where I was going now. Injections, because I'll read the quote again that somebody put. I do not consent to be labelled an anti-vaxxer simply because I have concerns about mandatory enforced vaccines or rush procedures without proper protocols, especially high-risk ones, with limited testings that are deemed highly profitable to the most questionable of interests. I mean, as I was saying earlier, that one there, first of all, they've brought in the anti-vaxxer thing. They've also brought in the fact that some people might be making money. Well, pharmaceuticals do, but they never say how much does it cost you to get it. And enforced vaccines or rush procedures, well, fair enough. That's not a problem.
Only place I don't wear a mask is home and outside.
Yeah, fair enough. And what are injections anyway? Usually, I mean, just for the benefit of some, just in case they never picked this up, it's something I learned from school. I think it was Edward Jenner, correct me if I'm wrong, who actually developed inoculation. And it was to do with milkmaids catching something they called cowpox at the time. And he came up, excessive use of caps. He came up with the idea that if you inject somebody with something, the body reacts to it, which builds up antibodies, and hence inoculation was born. And everyone used to take the mick out of him. I mean, there were cartoons. I do. There were cartoons abound about people turning into cows and things because they were being injected with something from the cow. And the way these things work is you find something that basically gives you a small controllable injection of the thing that is the thing you're trying to prevent. Usually it's inert. This is from my point of view. I believe this is correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, for instance, cowpox was something from the cow and they built up an immunity, which did work. The flu vaccine, usually they have an inert strain of the flu. So it's not going to proliferate in your body. It's just enough to get your immune system to build an immunity to it. And the reason why we wait till October is because there's so many strains of flu. Swine flu, avian flu, etc., etc. So have to wait to see which flu it is, and then use a vaccine. I think one year they used a vaccine that proved to be completely ineffective. And that's all vaccines are, so they base back to those days, and all they're doing is trying to find some combination that will trigger a response in your immune system that will then combat any sort of injection. So that's all it is. So if there was something that come out, now we know it's not going to come out till the end of the year, although in America it's going to be out sort of about November the 2nd, I believe, or November the 1st. Good morning back, I think. So there's that aspect of it, and that's where injections basically come from. So I'm just looking down this. Oh, here's another classic as well. I'm basically going over some of these statements at the moment. I will be doing a normal stream a little bit later on today as normal. But today I thought I'd just have a conversation about masks and things based on some of the nonsense that's been kicking around recently. Seeing what's going on in Trafalgar Square and seeing some of the stuff that's been posted by people where it seems obvious that to some extent they don't actually read what they are spreading. What the hell? So there's another statement in that whole thing that was going round on this email where the idea was you post it on if you agree with it, and it's just nonsense. I do not consent to the media only covering fraudulent and misleading case counts or grossly exaggerated death counts when the survival rate is immensely higher. Fear cripples immunity, so why aren't we talking about the excellent 99.9 recovery rate, successful treatments and therapies? You can see whoever started this email off had a bent, and it looks like people have been adding stuff in. Hello, Faisal. Welcome to the channel. Today we're just having a little bit of a chat. I'm normally just streaming games, but I thought today, why not do a little just chatting thing, talk about something slightly topical, i.e. masks, and the way that certain groups of certain populations believe that masks are a controlling thing, and that they know more than that, rather than seeing it as a way of you preventing other people from what's the word now? Contracting a disease that you may pass on. Now, some of the guys who actually come onto this channel, I know, have suffered with COVID. Some of them have had family members, and some of them directly. And one of them particularly springs to mind because I know that he was ill. And he said it was like suddenly he got no energy, his breathing was tight and laboured. That's a term that if you're an asthmatic you understand exactly what that means, which I'll explain a little bit shortly. And that it just basically took away all his energy, made his breathing struggle, and that was it. And that lasted for a few days. Okay. After that few days, it took a while and he was back to normal. And then a few weeks later, it hit him again, right? So suddenly he felt incredibly ill, no energy, had to go to bed, spent a week in bed. And it comes back, and the problem seems to be that the reason why it affects your breathing, right, this is from what I've read, what I've seen, is because the lungs are the first part of your body that get affected because you're breathing in the virus. So from what I've read, the lungs get affected, they start going bananas. In other words, your body starts fighting it like crazy. It spreads round to your other organs and causes damage to your other organs, basically.
That's after his haircut.
That's after his haircut. So basically, it's not just about having difficulty breathing for just a few days and then everything's okay. There's quite a few interesting long-term issues popping up. And I was reading something that they were talking about in the States, something I was watching, where they've started to see sort of longer term illnesses based on people who have had COVID and then survived it. It's all the follow-on issues, which is, you know, another thing, and this doesn't get taken into consideration. You know, I'm not going to say it's like polio, but if somebody had polio when they were young, you know, it's a major life-changing thing. Now, it's probably not quite there yet because there's no real evidential detail of that, but they are finding that for some people who have had it, there are longer-term risks. I mean, not many people are contributing to this. This is just me rambling on, so please feel free. Hello, Kodak. Hello, some of the guys, Sentry and so on. Just jump in and, you know, give me your view. Masks, good thing, bad thing? Are they helping? COVID, is it a response? Yeah. Exactly. It was coming back at the beginning, Grandad, that basically masks, you know, so many people see it as a personal thing, whereas it's not a personal thing at all. Masks are there to prevent you from contaminating other people. You know, if you choose not to wear a mask because you feel oppressed, for want of a statement, unfortunately it's not you that the mask is saving, it's other people, which is something I mentioned further on. And it's this attitude that people's rights are being taken away, and people who wear masks, I'm not going to wear a mask, you're not controlling me, etc. Yeah, exactly. What is the... I'll read out some of these because that way around you can actually hear the statement rather than have to read it. So what's the disadvantage of wearing a mask, though, if you're able to? I mean, you know, as he said, that's what I don't get. And I've seen, I don't know whether you've caught any of these people, and again, I have to refer to the States. It's probably going on in other places as well, and here now, where they go into a shop.
No one can see how beautiful I am. I start winking.
They go in and they have this little card that says they can't wear a mask because. Do you know what I mean? And it's the most amazing bullshit. Apparently now, if you wear a mask, you can't breathe. If you wear a mask for an hour, you can't breathe. Right? Now, I don't know whether anyone's ever seen any hospital stuff. That's fair enough. Yeah, no, that's fair enough, Grandad. It is a big way. I mean, why do you think people, right, feel threatened when somebody walks in and all you can see is their eyes because they've got a ski mask on? Do you know what I mean? You can understand it to some extent, but even so, you still have to overcome that. But I do understand it. But when people say you can't wear masks, you can't breathe, you see all these hospital films, and what do? They wear masks. Why do they wear masks in hospitals? Why, when they operate on you, do they wear a mask? It's not protecting them that much. It's more protecting them with all the rest of the clothes, the gloves and everything else. But why do they wear masks? Excuse me. Not wearing, it's a way of protecting. Yeah. Not touching it is not good. Again, because one of these things is they don't want to spread from mouth to mouth. It's not the spread from mouth to mouth. It's exactly the same reasoning. There are droplets. If you've got somebody lying on an operating table, right, with a insides line at the side of them and everything cut open, right, the last thing you want to do is push something into somewhere where it shouldn't be and make a situation much worse. If you see what I mean. So, that's why they wear masks. Now, in the States, they said, and I think this was a Fauci thing, they didn't want to, this was Fauci, not Trump, say, right, everyone go out and get masks, because they weren't geared up for the people in the hospitals to have as many masks available as they should. And it's the same over here to some extent. When it first kicked off, you couldn't buy masks for a dime and a dollar, so to speak. It took ages. We didn't go anywhere to have an issue. And we don't go many places much anyway. But you couldn't buy masks anywhere. And then you started seeing all these companies making masks that seem to be a little bit dodgy. But the point being is it's all about, protecting other people, not yourself. Let's have a little look at another statement from this post that was here. All right. I don't consent to house arrests and lockdowns. Staying home doesn't protect against domestic violence, sexual abuse, depression, anxiety, starvation, and suicide, all of which are costing many more lives than the virus.
For work, hospital have given me gloves, gel and clinic wipes. If I repair a phone, I can clean everything down, including the device I've repaired.
Exactly. I don't know if I was working where I used to be. I'm pretty damn sure that they would be more interested in the work being done than the people in it. For instance, I know this just sounds bad. You had something, you were only ever allowed 5 days off, right? On a rolling 12 months, otherwise they start taking money off you. Now, it's the first time I've ever worked in anywhere like that. I've always been considered on staff where I could have 6 months or 9 months off on full pay. So I was working at this place, and what that meant was that people were coming to work still ill, and if they had flu takes a couple of weeks, and they'd come to work, right, ill, make everyone else ill. But that was okay. But if you have 5
Not
days
as
off
if
and
anyone
save
else
everyone
who
else,
works here does it, but I'm not here them days.
yeah, exactly. You know, some businesses take it seriously, and I think some businesses don't. I think one of the big things that's come from it, and I know a lot of you guys are working from home, is that hopefully companies realise home working is not skiving, and there's still a lot of businesses that basically see, if they can't see you sitting there pretending to work, you're not working. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I used to be a home worker many years ago. In fact, we were one of BT's reference sites because of the nature of the business. You had a business where the location had 1 or 2 staff. That was it. Everybody else worked from home, using oh God, what was it? What was the old comms thing you used to use before the internet was as good? It was ADS. No, it wasn't ADSL. What was it? You'd have a box fitted into your house, and that was what you used to connect through to people. And I forgot what it was now. My mind's dropping out. But so hopefully everyone's going to suddenly discover that home working is actually more productive. I think it was ADSL, wasn't it? It was a box with a couple of connections. ISDN. Thank you. That's it. ISDN. There you go. Subscriber digital network. So you'd have 2 lines coming in, and you'd dual bond the 2 lines and double the bandwidth, and it still only gave you, a fraction of what you can get today. And that's how we used to work.
With callback to have to company pay the bill.
Of course. Exactly. And the thing is, to be honest, and I mean to be, really honest, if somebody's not doing the job, right, and sees being at home as a way not to do anything at all, it's actually blatantly obvious. It doesn't work like that, Kodak,
My
actually.
company records all touch points on work orders I interact with, whether I'm at work or at home, so I can't skive any more than I already do dog face.
Exactly. The way it works when you work at home, right, is you can legitimately claim back from the company, who can claim it back from the tax, a percentage of your household bills. Because obviously, if you are working, your house is empty, you've got no power going on, you don't need heating, you don't need lighting, etc. You want more work? Oh, you would. I mean, you can tell people what area you're working if you want, Grandad. It's up to you. I'm not going to say anything. But the point is...
Evening, buddy. What's with
hello,
scary
Scuba.
cam tongue?
Scary cam. Yeah, scary cam, thanks. So basically, what was I going to say? Yeah.
Hello, Fluffy.
So you can... Hello, Horny. You can actually claim money from working at home. Horny has been working at home. He's been to work. He's got stuff that he's taken home, and they have given him some more money to help pay for some of the bills, I believe. And it is claimable. Hello, Armorous. Right, what time have we got? How long have I been rabbiting on for? Oh, nearly an hour. Blimey. That's not bad, actually. I've got an hour maybe off, and then I'm going to have to start streaming something. So anyway, it was a conversation on masks all your life, yeah. Actually, I'm getting a nibble from somebody, which is good. I've got to get in touch with them and arrange a call, because it's coming from East Coast states. So we'll see how that goes.
They gave us all the equipment we needed and virtually a month's wages extra to help out with anything else we needed.
And to be honest, from what Horny said, their attitude to the whole COVID thing is actually, it's very laudable. The way they've done it, they've cut down on people in the office, they've sent people home, they've given them the equipment to use at home, they've given them some extra money, and as most people at home would find out, that it's very easy, and more time is spent working than if you've got to
The
travel to
attitude
work
from
in an
my
office.
company I work for is amazing. We get all the support possible and precautions are amazing.
Exactly. And I think over time, you know, there will be more home workers for the reasons that people mentioned, in as
I
much
was
as the
the
fact
toughest
that
yesterday to pick something up and it was like a hospital ward.
yeah, exactly. And it's in their interest to keep their staff happy, safe, and working. Some jobs you can't do it. You know, fair enough, you
I
can't
have
work at
been
home.
working from home since March as well. I get nothing from work but can claim some back in tax.
Yeah, you should be able to do this heating, lighting, the sort of stuff that you would have to use, and you can always have a percentage. I mean, if you have particularly big bills like we do, that would be great. You know, having a percentage of that paid. Excuse me, you can imagine being at home. Excuse me, all the time at the moment. I've got hiccups now. So let's see if there's anything else on this stupid bloody email. Oh yeah, here's another statement, a classic statement, which is nothing to do with the virus. I do not consent to the government making decisions about my health. They were elected to serve, not control me. I'm sorry. They were elected to serve. No, they were elected to represent you, make decisions on your behalf, with the ability to do that because you voted them in. And they can't make decisions about your health, really? So you don't want the health service, you don't want all that nonsense. It's just craziness. It's just one of the things spreading around, and some, I don't know, I really don't know how
How else does
to...
a nanny state work? Lol.
Exactly. I mean, it's from reading this, we are like some sort of bizarre dictatorship with guys in jackboots standing outside the street, checking your papers everywhere you go, blah blah blah, and forcing you to take drugs to keep you survived. It's just bizarre. Well, there's always a fringe. There is always a
My
fringe.
works give us so much support, it's amazing. They are really looking after the workers to the point nobody working there has caught COVID.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. It would be good to look at figures, wouldn't it? You know, sort of major companies, how many people have caught COVID at work? I know it's a difficult one to do because obviously you end up sort of, you can't tell whether someone's caught it at work or not. Oh, hang on, there's track and trace. But hang on, track and trace, isn't that sort of something people don't want the government to do because you don't want to be tracked and traced all the time? There was a bit I mentioned earlier which made me smile about tracking and tracing. I did read it out, but I'm going to read it again. I do not consent to the tracking and tracing of citizens, and yet what I was going to say is I bet they all walk around with a mobile phone. I mean, I'm not going to say too much, but in fact I'll rephrase this. You can buy devices in America that are illegal to own here because they are classed as secret. And those devices can track and trace anybody, anywhere, with a phone. The way phones work is as you move around, your phone, your apps, and everything on there communicate back to wherever they came from. And to communicate back, they have to talk to something, and they talk to the masts that are dotted around everywhere. So if you can find out, I think it's the IMEA or the what's it number of a phone, you can track anybody everywhere.
To be controlled will likely be the types that look to blame absolutely anybody else if they catch COVID.
Exactly. And it's always the way. These are the types who, thank you, Detroiters, and it's not that difficult to find those out, believe me. People make a living of doing that, tracking and tracing people and finding them. So what Backfin says is quite true, and they will, anything that goes wrong is their fault. The government hasn't helped me, they haven't helped me, it's their fault, it's this, that and the other. And yet now they're being controlled, they're this, that and the other. They should cut them loose. As I said, if again, it's one of those things that if it only affected the person themselves, i.e. if you wore a mask to stop yourself getting the virus, and the only person who got it was the person not wearing the mask, go ahead. Don't come running to the National Health Service when you're ill, right? And I know this sounds a little bit odd. You know, it's like if you're going to choose to smoke and it makes your lungs shit out, well, that's
No
your
job,
choice.
Best phone, nice house,
Do you know what I
and
mean?
don't want tracking while the shagging and spreading lol. Some people don't grow up
Yeah.
and still need some kind of parents to take care of them.
Yeah. I'm at work and they're doing wear a respirator. So no job, best phone, nice house, exactly. Some people are, yeah, I agree with that. No one cottoned on to having respirators fitted and charging for the air we breathe, yeah. Yeah, they missed the trick
When
there,
I'm
didn't
at
they?
work, you're lucky if I wear pants.
When I'm at work, you're lucky. I'm lucky if you wear pants, mate. You can only see me from here. Dear me. But yeah, it's just unbelievable, and it seems to be becoming a big thing in the UK as well now. Well, I say it seems to be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we'll leave that bit there, I think, but we get the gist. So it seems to be getting worse in the UK now, to be fair. But then again, it's just when you look at a number of people in a small place protesting in pants, that'll be quite good. But yeah, I mean, if it just affected the people themselves, then fair enough. Then I think I wouldn't have an issue with it. But when I go out shopping, you know, I can see people who think that it doesn't matter to them. There's a few in the shops, and I'm surprised the shops let them in. They shouldn't let them in. And if they kick up a fuss like they do in the States, just get the police to move them out, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? There's always one or two. But hey ho, I think actually, despite having the conversation, it seems as though I've spoken mostly about what it is. People are tending to agree, not many disagree, and it's not quite a two-way thing that I thought, but I think everybody's generally in consensus. Oh, Jesus wept. Off you go. And I think that's probably a good place to end it, so I only intended to do about an hour and just come back and go on about this. And I might do something else actually at another time, just as a change from, you know, gaming and stuff. So if anyone's got anything that they could suggest, either drop it in chat now, or you can you can't email me because I haven't got an email you can use. I'll have to create one, won't I?
Horny, not always the case. We are more interested in keeping our staff safe.
Well, no, I can understand that, Armorous. This is the thing. I can understand that, but when we go to, say, one of the shops, you've usually got 2 security guys on the doors, right? And you should have a couple of security guys on the door and say, look, I'm really sorry, you can't come into these premises if you don't wear a mask. And the minute they say,
they're not paid enough to challenge people's sense of entitlement.
Yeah, I mean, you know, over here they're not supposed to stop people, but they should just say, well, I'm sorry, if you insist on coming in, you will not be served, you will not be able to pay for your goods, and, you know, you are putting others at risk, which obviously they probably don't think of that in terms of, I'm not wearing a mask because I'm not going to be controlled. Well, go and sit at home and do your shopping at home. I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, in what time is it now?
My sister works in a pharmacy and has to limit the number of people coming in. I think she enjoys shouting at people though.
Well, do you know, I mistakenly, I went into the local chemist, which is what it's called over here. And I saw these people outside with masks on. It never dawned on me they were in a queue. And I went into the chemist and I stood there and I looked around and I thought, because the chemist normally, right, you go in, there's a counter, no problem at all.
She loves
right?
shouting at me. Batfink
We have,
1892. I know that, but all the shops where I am don't seem to care. Even the staff don't wear masks in most of the shops here, so
Yeah.
I avoid going to those shops.
Exactly, and that's sensible. But I went to the chemist, and then on the counter, everything's got this Perspex stuff. There's like a little pigeonhole. Everything's cut off. 2 people allowed in the shop at any one time. One stands at half of the shop. Then you've got some shelves. Then another person stands the other. And then I suddenly realised there was a queue. And I went back outside, and they're like looking at me. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. I really didn't realise you was in a queue." I said, "You were chatting. I just thought it was people you knew you was having a chat." I said, "I do apologise." Walked round to the back of the queue and fine. And they just stood there and laughed at me. He says, "Yeah, no worries." They said, "We wondered how long it'll be before you come out," which is fine. But it's those people who just go and think, none of this applies to them. Anyway, yeah, I'm not surprised, Armorous. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not surprised. And I tell you what, the way some of these women, your hoses.
Hello.
I hope that's not a mistake. Will you just butt out?
See my shoulder.
Just butt out.
That's what it is.
Just butt out of my bloody chatting here. It's bad enough on my normal stream. Anyway, so
Lisa Cam?
Lisa Cam.
I see no teacup.
I see no teacup.
I've just bought the kettle platy.
Do it in your proper accent.
Wind your neck in, platy.
Do it in your proper accent, not your posh accent.
This is my proper accent.
No, the one we go, "I just come for your cat, mister." Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, I wasn't expecting an interruption then, or what? Well, I was expecting a cup of tea. So I'm going to jump off now. We might have a chat about something else. Oh, here we go. So if anyone's got any suggestions or anything to talk about, something, unfortunately, I do like my politics, my religion, my what's-its, and I get told off for bringing... Shall we talk about politics? Yeah, why not? It'll have to be controlled a bit, I think. I'm going to make a note. And
I like what's it says.
it's not going to be exactly, it's going to be based on English politics. Maybe unions as well. English politics and unions. And why do I have such an interest in politics and unions? I'll tell you that before I start. Right? Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. It should be quite short. When I grew up, we used to have all the local Labour MPs coming round the house. My dad was a very staunch. No, I'm not going to moan. I'm going to basically go through very clearly about why I do not vote, and I haven't voted since I was 18. I mean, that's how many years? 42 years. I haven't voted.
60.
Yeah. So I think it's quite interesting actually, and I've had people try and say to me, "Oh, you should vote," usual stuff, but we'll cover that. And plus that. And a biscuit. You can't give me a biscuit now. Just put it there. Thank you. Stop laughing. So yeah, I think that might be a good, interesting one, especially based on UK politics. And I'm sure everybody's got a view on UK politics that are here. And it'll be interesting and see how many people actually vote and see how many people don't vote. And it's entirely up to you whether you say who you vote for or what sort of party or where your politics are. But
I voted in the Euroref. First time I'd voted since I was 21.
Exactly. And it's quite surprising. It's not apathy either. But I'm not going to go down this route because it's quite interesting when you sort of start looking at why people vote, why they don't vote, and the views and opinions of others. But anyway, I'm going to wind it up there, guys. I will be jumping on Star Citizen soon and trying to remember to change everything. And eventually, if I continue doing these things, and I don't know when they'll be, it's when I can fit them in, or should I say, if I get up and bother to get up and get them all started.
I voted as I wanted to get out for 5 minutes.
Exactly. Monster raving loony party. All right, guys, I'm going to...
up as Northern Ireland politics.
Oh, well, if you come on Scoop, I know it's quite late for you, although it's a little bit earlier than later now, then it will be later, because then it'll be later for you as well. But if you come on, explain some of the Northern Ireland politics.
It made a nice change. Will take a while to get over that Facebook campaign.
Yeah. Well, my hair, my beard was down here before. My hair was longer, and I had it all cut down to a number 2. This was completely gone. This is growing again, as you can see. My hair's not quite long enough to do anything with at the moment, but okay. We'll end it there. Thank you very much for coming. Hello, Bisno. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for taking part and having a conversation as well. I'll do another one, and it will be on politics, mainly UK politics, the voting system, and that. And we'll do an hour on that. I'm going to start streaming properly. I say properly, I've just denigrated myself. It's around about 12:30, and today is Star Citizen. Tomorrow, of course, is DCS, but thank you very much for... Oh, look at her in a little raincoat. Oh, it's pissing down with rain. Are you going out?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to take the lead?
What?
We can pretend you're out walking the dog in this rain, at least. Okay, don't then.
Shut
All right,
up.
guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later. Thank you.